All right, here we go. It's 8:07 on News Talk 1079. It's a Friday. Welcome, East Idaho, to the Neal Larson Show. And if you'd like to reach the program via text, 208-542-1079. That's the Stones Automotive Group call and text line. Let me lay it out for you today. We have 6 Supreme Court rulings expected, and they... apparently, we're starting to get one here on the birthright citizenship case. I know a lot of the immigration hawks have been watching for this one pretty closely. And it looks like, I'm just looking at the chatter at SCOTUS blog, that they may have kind of punted. The court says it's not deciding whether the executive order is constitutional. And Amy Coney Barrett said federal courts do not exercise general oversight of the executive branch. They resolve cases and controversies consistent with the authority Congress has given them. When a court concludes that the executive branch has acted unlawfully, the answer is not for the court to exceed its power to. So kind of a punt there. And so we'll keep an eye on that. We're expecting a bunch more cases to come down. We also had, and Julie sent me this, it's a long list of the resolutions, I think 16, that were put out by the Idaho GOP during their summer meeting over the weekend in Pocatello. We may touch on a number of those as well. We also have more media controversy. This has just become a regular facet of our daily struggle as we try to find out what in the world is the truth, what's going on in the world. And of course, we rely on the media. It's their job. You know, there's that phrase, you had one job. And their one job is for them to go out, find the truth, whatever it is. And there's a phrase called without fear or favor, meaning you don't jump into narratives and try to promote those. You just go out and you find the truth, you report it, and it is what it is. They don't really do that anymore. And we know that, so we have this uphill battle. We have to swim upstream against this media system that has become deeply invested in who wins elections and who has political power. And right now, it seems like the focus, like laser-like focus of the Trump administration is Natasha Bertrand. Natasha Bertrand is a reporter who has reported on a whole bunch of things for CNN. Fairly young. She's in her early 30s, and she's got a, pretty robust resume for this phase of her career and her life. But the problem is, it appears that the things that she has reported incorrectly always seem to be negative towards Donald Trump. Don't you find that interesting? It's like when you go to the grocery store and they get your change wrong, and if you went to the same cashier at a grocery store for 20 years, on occasion the cashier gets it wrong, what would you start to think if every time the cashier got it wrong, it was in the cashier's favor? It was in the store's favor. You would start to think this is not an accident. When it leans a certain way every single time, that is not an accident. Well, you can do the same thing with journalism. Every reporter's going to get it wrong once in a while. It just happens. It's called life, and life is imperfect, and they do get it wrong. But I want you to listen to this takedown of Natasha Bertrand by Caroline Leavitt.
It's to the same reporter, I will add, Natasha Bertrand of CNN, who has done this in the past. In 2020, it was Natasha Bertrand who had 51 intelligence analysts falsely lie to her, but she still put it on paper for some reason, that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. We all know that's not true, right? We can all agree on that now. That was a lie from the intelligence community. Also in 2020, this same reporter, Natasha Bertrand, wrote that a top intel agency ruled out the man-made lab leak theory of the coronavirus origins. Again, the president was right about that. This reporter wrote a lie from the intelligence community to seek a narrative she wanted to prove, and guess what? We now know that's the truth. Also, in 2024, Bertrand pushed the suckers and losers hoax. She also pushed the fine people hoax, which was taking the president's words purposely out of context. And then last October, and I believe this is notable, Natasha Bertrand published an article in Politico from the intelligence agency. She said that John Ratcliffe was speaking without any evidence when he said Iran was attempting to undermine President Trump's presidential campaign. And then we, of course, found out that was absolutely true. In fact, the Biden administration declassed an intel report which said they had high confidence that Iran had done exactly what Ratcliffe alleged. They did run an influence campaign to hurt President Trump's candidacy. In fact, we know the Iranians tried to take President Trump's life. And so this is a reporter who has been unfortunately used by people who dislike Donald Trump in this government to push fake and false narratives. She should be ashamed of herself. And that's not what reporting is. Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth. And this week, we saw this same reporter being used to push a fake narrative to try to undermine the President of the United States, and more importantly, the brave fighter pilots who conducted one of the most successful operations in United States history. And I think the American people fully know that this operation was a complete and total success.
All right, so let's go back. In other words, she has this track record, and it's interesting the verbiage that Caroline Leavitt used, that this reporter has been used. She is young. In fact, she started her mis- and disinformation reporting early on in her career with the Russia-Trump collusion hoax, the Hunter laptop stuff. And keep in mind, she's the cashier, and the House is always winning here. In terms of the mistaken change given back, it never benefits the customer. Always benefits one side. So you have to think, if someone that young begins early, is that wrong that often on big issues, you start to see a pattern of what's happening here. Was she given the job at CNN and she had a task? Good writer. She clearly has some skills and can write and do journalism-y things, but she's gotten it wrong on a whole bunch of stuff, and now this is just the latest. She was given information about this. Somebody leaked it. It was in a classified hearing, and somebody leaked selectively out of context. Well, we don't know the context, but selectively little portions of this, words like low confidence and other. And I hope, and I think people at large have become more savvy. I don't know if we're savvy enough, but more savvy. By the way, I want to pause. I'm just going to tell you what headlines are. The Supreme Court has limited the use of nationwide injunctions. So it may not be a grand slam for Donald Trump, but it appears that it's moving in the right direction, that the nationwide injunctions, and I just want to read some snippets here. Again, this is the chatter on SCOTUS blog, which they're first. Like if you want to know what's happening as close to real time as possible, go to SCOTUS blog. It's really good. Sotomayor contends that the Trump administration did not ask the court to completely block the lower court orders because it would have to show that the order is probably constitutional, which it can't do, she says. The gamesmanship in this request is apparent, and the government makes no attempt to hide it, yet shamefully this court plays along. In the Sotomayor dissent, we're getting the merits preview on the underlying birthright. So there's always anger in the dissent, and I would say Sotomayor is one of the more grumpy, often in the minority ruling side. And it says, just to clarify, they ruled on nationwide injunctions but did not even touch birthright citizenship. So that it's the same ruling, but apparently it's kind of a mixed ruling. Kavanaugh's concurring opinion notes that district courts do not have the last word on preliminary injunction requests. Courts of appeals and the Supreme Court can also weigh in, and that order of operations will not change, or that order of operations will not change. And then someone said they didn't touch the issue of birthright citizenship, but the nationwide injunction issue, they have weighed in on that, and it looks like those are being curtailed, which is good news. When you stop and think about how one singular judge in a lower court can essentially stop policy, and in some ways that looks an awful lot like making policy for the entire country. And I've made this point before. Functionally, what looks more like a king? We just had the No Kings protest. What looks more like a king? Someone who's unelected signing a piece of paper and then waves it to effectiveness across the entire land. That, to me, looks a lot more like a king than someone who's given power, but only in 4-year increments, issuing executive authority that their successor can then undo. So, all right. So there you have that. Again, kind of an interesting ruling. It appears to be pretty silent on the birthright citizenship issue, but moving in the right direction on the nationwide injunction issue, which that brings up another question is basically it's the Supreme Court saying, yeah, these lower courts are overreaching in extending their rulings to apply nationwide. There was also, this is, maybe this is a little part of the fireworks, but you had a point where Amy Coney Barrett made a really good point, but a super hard slam against Justice Jackson. Quote, "We observe only this. Justice Jackson," called her by name, "Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary." It's what I just said. The judge gets to look like the king in an effort to stop the president from looking like the king. So, all right. You know what? My mind goes back to the No Kings protest because I courageously and without fear, as a conservative radio talk show host, walked into the midst of that very robust protest. I was outnumbered probably, 500 to 1. And there were maybe 1,000 people. There might have been a couple of us that were conservatives, but for the most part. Now, I didn't advertise it. I didn't wear a MAGA hat. I didn't put on a, shirt that said proud conservative. I just went down, looked pretty normal, and interviewed a handful of people. And one of the protesters, she was absolutely insistent that the judges were acting very properly in all of this. And I'm like, yeah, you just wait. You just wait until this hits the Supreme Court. So a little bit vindicated on that front. So back to this Natasha Bertrand. It's clear what is happening, and this is another. In fact, I would bet you if Donald Trump made a list of all the things that he'd like to accomplish as president of the United States, dismantling the mainstream media is probably on that list, and he is accomplishing it. So really quick, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Natasha Bertrand, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a tell here, because in the last 24 hours, CNN is standing up and they are defending Natasha Bertrand and her reporting. And I'm like, okay, but in that you're saying that publicly because you have to. That's a terrible look if the president says someone should be fired and then a media outlet fires that person. Okay, that they can't do that. And they can't. It absolutely looks terrible. And so what I think might happen, I don't know for sure, but what I think might happen is they have they let this blow over, and then they might examine in the coming weeks the damage that is inflicted on the reputation of CNN by having a reporter like Natasha Bertrand, who does seem to get it wrong a lot on the big issues. And maybe they sort of slowly, quietly urge her to find other pastures. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what were to happen. And then sometimes things happen that are just so stinking egregious that you have to fire them, like Terry Moran of ABC. I think that's got to happen. So, all right, it's 8:22. Let me take a break. We are getting set up. We're excited to have a Studio 4 cover for you today. We're going to have Amber Beck joining us. and she is going to sing the national anthem. Why? Because the 4th of July is next Friday, and we won't be here. So we thought, let's do an initial little dose of patriotism. I mean, we do it every day, but you know what I'm saying. And we'll have the national anthem from Amber this morning, just about 15 minutes from right now. And look forward to that. She's super talented. So we'll be back after this on News Talk 107.9. 8:28 on News Talk 107.9. Julie, so the court has limited the use of nationwide injunctions, which is really good.
Yes.
And so that keeps the judges from being imperialist. So, and I have a question for you, because these lower courts, they have a geographic region they represent. They can issue an injunction for their own region. Can't the other federal court districts do the same thing? If they wanted to?
Look, all of this is really confusing to me, and I feel like when we start to weigh in on it, I feel like I'm way out of my league as far as understanding judicial.
A lot of legal stuff.
Yes, so much. Because I don't understand how a D.C. judge has jurisdiction in Texas where the person is being held. And where the person was captured. I don't get that at all.
I don't either. And I think instinctively we're all like, that shouldn't happen.
Right.
You don't, like, you can't have, that would be like the governor of Idaho issuing an executive order and expecting Oregon to obey it, or Montana to obey it. It just doesn't transfer, you know. So, and I think the Supreme Court basically made that point.
Good.
Today. So,
Good.
Again, it's still really early. And I think this is the one ruling. This is the one that had, and I remember when this was being argued, that it was a birthright citizenship case, but it was also a nationwide injunction case, too. It was sort of a mixed thing. And they did kind of punt on the birthright citizenship issue. So,
yeah.
And maybe that one just isn't ripe yet for them to weigh in on. So, yeah. Anyway, that.
All right.
Natasha Bertrand. No.
I think this girl's gotten way too much cred, too much name recognition.
I do too.
It's time for her to go away.
Yeah, I think it is. And maybe, you know what? And I think we'll find out. I think maybe she might be damaged goods after this, because one too many narratives of misinformation that you participate in, and I think it does come back to haunt you.
Right.
Karma.
Yeah.
So
it'll happen to her.
Yeah. All right. And all right. Let's break, because we have a great Studio 4 cover this morning.
Super excited. I've been hearing her warm up. So it's Amber Beck. You've probably heard Amber. If you've been out and about at any activities, she frequently sings the Star Spangled Banner, maybe at a Chuckers game or a Spud Kings game. We're so excited to have her here. Plus, she's got a lot of personality, which I love about her, too.
All right. We're about 5-6 minutes away from that, right here on News Talk 107.9.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neal and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
All right, 8:37 on News Talk 107.9. Neal Larson along with Julie Mason. And Julie, you can even be on that mic today. We got plenty of mics here and people. And we're so excited. Every Friday morning at this time, We love to do Studio 4 covers, and we have Amber Beck in studio with us this morning. Hi, Amber.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks. Happy to be
Good.
here.
So you reminded us what year that we experienced you performing for another. That was a previous life for us. And
I think for everyone, right?
It was, yeah. That's true. Anyway, we've been reincarnated, and we're here at News Talk 107.9 now. But we thought, because you are very experienced singing the national anthem, and with it just being a week away from the 4th of July, it would be a perfect time to bring you in. So,
absolutely.
But tell our audience, before we get to that, introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Amber Beck, originally from Idaho Falls, but I live in Mackay, Idaho. I'm a mom, a realtor, a beekeeper, a gardener, a shooting sports enthusiast. We have a 4-H club in Mackay, it's Custer County, Butte County.
Yeah.
And we let youth come out and shoot guns and positively develop their skills, and that's a lot of fun. And
okay, that list of things could not be more Mackay.
I hope so, right?
And more interesting. I want to
Right.
know all about the
started.
beekeeping.
I was just getting started.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's true.
Remember last time I told you I grow weeds
on
purpose?
Oh,
Not
good.
weed,
Not
remember?
weed. Yeah,
Weeds.
gotcha. All right.
Yeah, medicinal and edible herbs and weeds. And I
Right,
make
that's
medicine
true.
with those. That's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
She's a
too.
medicine woman, too.
There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
You got a wide resume here. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So, well, tell us about your singing background. What brought you to be a singer?
Well, I was born with a gift, and I have sang my entire life. My mom used to say that I wouldn't wake up and cry in the crib. I would just sing. And so
okay.
it started then. And
Wow.
just honestly all through grade school and all of that. And I just have sang my whole life. And I was thinking about when I started singing the national anthem. If I recall correctly, it was kind of probably my junior year in high school is when I started to sing the national anthem. And I'm grateful for age and time, because my voice is better now than it was then. And so, and honestly, it is always an honor and a privilege to sing the national anthem. And every opportunity I have to do it is appreciated. Yeah. And my gift touches people in a deep way. My voice does, and I feel really special to have the opportunity to share that. So
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place where you sing the national anthem? Because you've done many different, like rodeos, like you've done lots.
I have. Honestly, probably to date, my favorite was last year when I did the Snake River Stampede in the Fort Idaho Center.
Oh, wow.
That was wonderful, and I got to sing on Veteran Night, and so that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, military service runs through the family, and so we really appreciate that. And I would say that was probably my favorite. Mm-hmm. Last weekend, I sang it 3 times in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
In Mackay, so that was pretty awesome.
Okay, you're the go-to.
Which I'm really grateful for.
Sure,
like I say, I just it's a special song, and it's nice to be able to touch people with that. I also sing in a band. We're called the Distillers, and I get to play with 2 amazing guitar players. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they'll be back.
Yes,
you
I know.
will be back.
Yeah, holler at us.
That's the
Okay.
next conversation is we got to bring y'all in here
It's a
and
lot of fun.
perform.
Or
So.
actually, you know what? If you guys will just come out to Mackay, I'll invite you next time we're playing, and you can come to Paradise and spend the night and enjoy a lovely
so
evening.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
fun. Yeah,
So.
that's good. All right. Well, Amber, everyone knows this tune. It needs
Indeed.
no introduction. So take it away.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Beautiful. Amber, that was amazing.
Appreciate that so much. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thank you for coming in this morning.
Absolutely.
And making the drive.
Absolutely.
To be here.
Doesn't bother me.
Any upcoming gigs you want to let our audience know about?
We don't have any scheduled right now.
That's
but
okay.
I'll message you or text you. And let
All right.
you know.
With her band coming
There
up.
we go.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. Date to be decided.
Okay. Sounds good.
And
Plan
all right.
for the future.
Amber, thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right. It is 8:43 now on News Talk 1079.
Thanks, you.
8:48 on News Talk 1079. It's Neal Larson, Julie Mason. It's a Friday, and Amber's so down to earth and likable and talented.
When you're with Amber, you want to go. You want to be like, we don't need to do radio for another hour. Let's just go have lunch.
She's like the party, like she's the sunshine. She's just
She's
fun to be around.
So fun,
yeah,
so fun.
She is. And again, big thanks to her for.
It was a drive for
her. It was
her.
a drive. Yeah,
Yeah.
And when you're driving from Mackay to Idaho Falls, like the first 4 miles are beautiful.
Then it gets really deserty.
Maybe 10 miles. I'd give it 10 miles. Then you get to what do we?
Don't ask me.
More. Probably get to more, and then more turns into less. But it's. I guess the desert is its own beauty.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to go through the bad to get to the really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's part of that.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
man, we got texts. People loved that.
No, they really did.
Yay.
Yeah. Good. You know what? And here's the thing. The national anthem, when you think about that, it's meant to be sung live to a crowd with ambient and reverb, and like a studio can be kind of sterile, but she nailed it. She did a great job.
So good. And I love the patriotism. I went for a long walk yesterday. So many people had flags out at their homes. Yeah. That was beautiful to see. It makes me happy that this was a good thing to do in preparation for the week of our Independence Day.
Yes, and we have that record. We may use that again.
As we should.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
We'll share that with our other stations.
Yeah,
because
they could put it on.
Okay. I never can make the good transition from this, which was fun and awesome and great, to Tim Walz. Okay. This is weird. Liz Collin is an investigative reporter. She was a guest on Tucker Carlson. Just listen to this for a minute.
Sadly, we also know, I've spoken to a couple people that served with Tim Walz in Nebraska in that guard unit, and they suspect, and we've done stories and tried to reach out to Walz for comment, but they suspect that perhaps he took their standard operating procedure, the SOP, for the howitzer army tank. He was assigned to this tank. It was nuclear capable, and this was all laid out in the SOP that goes missing while he's there. And
the manual goes missing?
Right, and they had talked to the FBI about this as well. There's so many questions.
What does that mean? Why did they talk to the FBI?
They think that he was traveling back and forth from China at this time. And then we also know that this howitzer...
Wait.
I know I sound crazy right now.
No, you don't sound crazy at all. You're recounting the facts.
Yeah.
You are saying that men he worked with in the National Guard in Nebraska went to the FBI because they believed he had given classified military secrets to the Chinese government?
They suspect that he did. And
well, they suspected to the point that they went to the FBI.
Well, this was all when all these stories are coming out finally about his background, and they're like, maybe we should talk about this. These are guys that back then didn't report this. This was in the early 90s, and they always talked about it amongst themselves. And I think that they weren't completely aware of, the potential threat something like this could pose, but they always thought this was very strange. And then China started producing almost a carbon copy of this military tank a couple of years later.
Okay, so you look at the timeline, this manual goes missing of this nuclear capable tank. that Tim Walz was in, part of. He takes off for a little while, can't be seen, manual's gone, and then a short time later, the Chinese start making a nearly identical tank?
Mm-hmm. This was floated all during the time where that disastrous campaign that him and Kamala ran, that he had these deep connections to China. I don't think you just make that up, right? There had to be some sort of hint that this was going on. I think it absolutely needs investigated. And just one more example of the many, many, many bullets that we dodged in all of this.
Well, when you look, can we explore it just a little bit further? It's not just like time and place where he was, but when you look at his policies in Minnesota, they're very Marxist. And any Marxist who's regularly going to China clearly has some sympathies. Mm-hmm. Is he a sleeper agent? Did they find a way to pressure the Harris people or whoever controls the Harris people to put Tim Walz on the ballot? Because he's done a lot for them.
He was a weird choice.
Very weird choice. It doesn't make any sense. He wasn't well known. He looks like your Uncle Bob. You know, like he's... My apologies to every Bob out there, but you know what I'm saying.
No offense, Uncle Bob.
Yeah, but he there's nothing about him visually that makes you go, I want to vote for that guy.
Well, earlier in the show, I said sizzle, right?
Yeah.
Tim Walz is everything but sizzle.
Yeah.
He's kind of dopey and dorky and...
Right.
Yeah, there was no sizzle.
So let's go back a few days. You have the shooter of that Minnesota lawmaker. There's all sorts of weird around that we're not going to go down. That shooter said Tim Walz wanted him to shoot and kill Amy Klobuchar so he could get her Senate seat.
Yeah, what kind of connection did Tim Walz have to that man's name is Vance Bolter? Like what kind of connection was going on there? We do know he was appointed by the governor previous to Tim Walz, and then the appointment continued under Tim Walz. And he wasn't really qualified to do the job he was appointed for.
Yeah.
His resume is he was a manager at 7-Eleven. He did go to college. But what qualified you to be working for this nonprofit?
Okay, this is weird. All of it's weird. Mm-hmm. Because then you start to think, okay, if he's willing to go out and assassinate people, because he did, allegedly, but it's pretty clear he did. Then was that just well known? If we need to get a job done, that's the guy that will have do it.
I believe something was going on there. And I made this point one other time, but I think we were on Facebook Live, so I'll make it since we're talking about it here, which is his wife had an understanding that something was going on.
Yeah.
When your husband goes out and allegedly shoots 2 people and almost kills them, and then shoots 2 other people and a dog and does kill them, allegedly.
Yeah.
And then he sends you a complicated text that says there's going to be people showing up that are trigger happy to our house. You should probably get out. You don't react by putting your kids silently in the car, grabbing $10,000 in cash and everybody's passports and go on the run.
Yeah.
You start calling around going, what is going on? Are you okay? He needs help, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
She knew.
There clearly was a plan there.
Yes.
Like, this is what I need to do now. And it had been thought through before. So,
And if there had been a plan and you just have somebody who's having a mental failure.
Yeah.
And you think maybe they're going to go politically haywire, you would probably have interceded before this point.
Wait a minute, Julie. Are you telling me you haven't thought through the what if my spouse is an assassin scenario?
I have not.
Because
we're kind of normal and boring.
You need to have a will. You need to have a will. You should have a 401k. You should know where your Social Security cards are. You should also have a plan if your spouse turns out to be a political assassin.
All of those things.
All those things. Like, that's just
Yeah. It's in that list of what should you do to plan the end of your life.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't know. There's some weirdness here. A lot. And Tim Walz seems to have his fingerprints on it.
And he is not saying a thing.
No.
That's what's weird about this.
He made one. You you had asked me when we were talking about this on Facebook Live if he had made any statements, and I was like, I can't remember. So I went back to, I archive all of the news articles that I pull my information from just to be smart and cover myself. I went back to those and I looked. There was one paragraph from him in all of the news articles that I had looked at. Very, very bland statement. And since then, he's been pretty underground.
Yeah. Is he lawyering up?
I have no idea. He probably should.
Is he leaving to go live in China in exile?
It's time to turn the page, Tim.
Maybe, yeah. Turn the page on your live, Tim. Anyway, all right. So much weird there. It is 8:58 on News Talk 107.9. Neal Larson and Julie Mason on this Friday morning. And we will come back. Julie, I'm looking at our roster of clips. We actually have another Tucker Carlson clip I want to play because there's Fox News intrigue going on. Tucker basically said she's a lying Trump hater. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know any of this, but if you go back to the press conference with Pete Hegseth, he said to her, quote, "You're the worst."
Yeah.
There's drama behind the scenes at Fox over this, I promise you.
Yeah.
All right, it's 8:59, hour 2, coming up like an hour ago. Mm-hmm. Like, that's pretty remarkable.
Well, it's because they actually work there.
That's true.
Unlike the previous 4 years.
Well, you know what? They probably are like, hey, we feel pretty confident we're going to win this. Let's put together a plan for a press conference. And
mm-hmm.
You know what we've done sometimes when we do? Should I tell this? I know we have to go on the air here momentarily. I'll actually produce 2 promos based on how something might turn out. Uh-huh. And that way it's ready either way.
Yeah.
Like for the Super Bowl, they actually print both outcomes. Mm-hmm. And whichever shirt is wrong, they incinerate them.
Yeah.
Here we go. 9:07 on News Talk 107.9. It's Neal Larson and Julie Mason. And those poor senators, they have to work through the weekend, Julie. Trying to get the big, beautiful bill. Apparently, there's a deadline coming up in a week. They want to get it done before the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. And they got to get the BBB done or else it's not going to happen. And so, you know what? That's okay. They can work through a weekend. Mm-hmm. It's all right. They'll be okay.
They get a lot of time off. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah. I've known a couple of people who have worked through the weekend and survived.
The thing about, us.
We have done that before, yes.
Weekly, in my case.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting week because people are going to want to start exiting D.C. on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. The holiday is Friday, and we know they can't leave just the night before the holiday. This has all got to happen very quickly. So we might see a vote on, say, Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then the House would take it up Monday morning.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they'll get it done.
I hope so.
You know what I don't like, though, about dynamics like this? You will tolerate the intolerable because you want to get on a vacation with your family. Mm-hmm. That bugs me. We've seen things like this I know I'm going to get a phone call, the Idaho legislature before, where they're so eager to get out of town. They'll rush through things that...
Our whole problem with the voting seems to have come partly because of that. There was many, many reasons.
Yeah.
But partly because of that, the whole problem with the voting kind of... Because remember, they needed to attach a trailer bill to it, and then we lost the way that we do the primary and then we ended up having to have a caucus, and part of that was because that waited till the very end of the session.
Yeah.
And they just were like, we're done.
Yeah, I know. And it is, you're right. It's a rough situation. We're awaiting a Trump news conference after the Supreme Court decision came down that basically said no federal judges in lower courts cannot act like kings and issue nationwide injunctions. Mm-hmm. That's been severely limited by the Supreme Court.
Great win. Great win for the Trump administration.
Yeah, it is. And we'll see. I don't know if this is going to be, it's probably going to be Trump himself. He does a lot of these. So we'll see what he has to say on that.
You were saying during the commercial break that amazing that they can put this together in about an hour, right? And they probably had some pre-plans or whatever. Well, there's a couple of reasons we could never count on this from the Biden administration. One, he wasn't cognitively prepared to go out there and do that, and they would have had to have put everything on a teleprompter, and there will not be a teleprompter at this. Secondly, they were, every time they held anything, they were, scooting him off to that sound stage that they had created across the street from the White House.
Yeah.
Which I still don't have an explanation for. Some people say it's because it didn't have the kind of recording capabilities that happen in the actual White House. And so that's why they had that soundstage somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So they wouldn't be held to a standard that you would be held to within the White House.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why that soundstage had to be created.
Yeah.
But they would have had to have gone there, which would have complicated the whole thing. And also, he couldn't have mentally handled the press conference. But
yeah, no. Yeah, that was such a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is weird. Okay. I want to play this Tucker Carlson clip. We teased it last hour. And for some reason, Tucker was talking about Jennifer Griffin, who is like the national security reporter for Fox News.
Jen Griffin is a liar, but also very liberal. Wow, true Trump hater. To the point where I complained about her. And I really tried not to complain about other people at Fox when I worked there because, I don't like that, office politics stuff. But she was discrediting the channel. She was such a Trump hater. And it was emotional, her internal memos, from the Pentagon, sources are telling us, were like screeds. It was I'll just read Political Playbook if that's what, or whatever. I'll read Mother Jones. And I said to an executive at Fox, what are we doing with this Jennifer Griffin person? She's an idiot. She doesn't tell the truth. She misleads our viewers. And she's a screaming liberal who hates Trump, who our viewers love. So what are we getting out of this? And I was whatever. It's boy, you could not touch Jennifer Griffin. I don't know what that's about.
Okay, so it's interesting. If you look at Jennifer Griffin, which I do watch Fox News a lot, but I don't catch her very often. Usually we're on the air when they're doing stories about that. She's actually married to NPR's national security correspondent.
Aww.
Greg Meyer is his name. He's also reported for the Associated Press and the New York Times. Now, when someone works for Fox in a pretty visible capacity, you think that they're probably fairly conservative. So I thought, I wonder what that marriage is like. But this Tucker's take is no, she's a liberal. She's a lib. She's working for Fox because she's probably got a pretty good resume. But she's a lib. He also called her an idiot. I doubt she's actually an idiot. But but you go back to the press conference with Hegseth. And he said, and Jennifer, you're the worst. Now, keep in mind, Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Jennifer Griffin, they all worked for Fox. I feel like there's probably some previous workplace drama that went on. Maybe they had differences, difficulties, personality clashes. And I think maybe we might see some of that spilling out in this today. And clearly, I mean, there are worse people than Jen Griffin. You look at some of the questions that NBC, MSNBC, and what CNN has done at times, it's way more egregious than Jen Griffin. So I think there was some personal there going on.
Yeah. We felt like it was personal when we were watching that press conference, that there was obviously some sort of beef between Pete Hegseth and Jen Griffin. But there's an interesting portion of Tucker's clip there where he said, he referenced, I don't know what she has. Maybe she's got some dirt on people or what. Basically what he's saying is, I don't know how she got to stick around when she didn't match the Fox brand and it was clear that she was a flaming liberal and everything. Well, after she took that arrow from Pete Hegseth in that presser, she immediately did a hit on Fox and Friends. You remember that presser was very early for DC standards. We were airing it early. It was 8 a.m. DC, 6 a.m. here. And so Fox and Friends was still on. They had 1 hour left. She did the hit immediately after. And Brian Kilmeade thanked her
Profusely.
Profusely.
Yes.
A lot of, we really appreciate all that you do. Blah, blah, and I'm like, you don't have to bail her out of this. She's a tough gal. She can take it, Brian Kilmeade. You don't need to be doing this.
Yeah. There was a sense of we got to have her back.
Yeah. So maybe Tucker's got something there where he says she knows some dirt or something.
Well, you also look at the Murdochs. Rupert Murdoch, pretty conservative. I think he's probably more of a businessman than he is a conservative. He just recognized a niche and he filled it. But he's got, well, I think one of the sons is kind of like him, but he's got another son who's very, very liberal. And maybe that's part of the connection here too. And there is some worry that once Rupert passes away, that Fox, fairly conservative now, will turn and become more either centrist or even left, simply because Daddy's not in charge anymore.
Yeah.
So that it'll become a tussle between the brothers. So
It could. Well, all we got to do is review the exit of Tucker Carlson and know that it can go bad real fast.
Yeah. Can we go back? Sorry, it just triggered a memory. The press conference with Pete Hegseth when the reporter talked about the use of boys and bombers. Mm-hmm. And she's like, are you worried that your female bombers are feeling left out? I don't know, something like that. It was just sort of this gender question. So Julie and I had a little conversation after that because we kind of rolled our eyes. Pete Hegseth rolled his eyes because that's just apparently an often used phrase, boys and bombers, in military circles. And I said to Julie, how many times do you walk into a room mixed with men and women and you say, hey, guys. Mm-hmm. Hey, guys. Mm-hmm. Guys is clearly a male reference because there's guys and there's gals. And you say, hey, guys. Do women feel excluded when you walk into a room and you go, hey, guys?
I don't feel excluded at all. And also, like the younger generation, we would have said bro.
Yeah.
They say bruh or brah.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of got an A. That's universal.
Yeah.
Male, female.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Now,
yeah,
I think there are people that would want to have, well, let's have a longer discussion. Why is it always a male reference? Why are there no female references that mean generically to everyone?
Sure. Go ahead and have the conversation. There was no malice by Pete Hegseth when he said boys and bombers.
Yeah.
He was so excited about the successfulness of the mission. He was talking in as much excitement as anything. And I saw Pete taking some heat online last night on X because he got emotional in that press conference yesterday.
Okay.
He got a little teary when they were talking about the mission. And they were like, he's breaking. He can't do this job. Oh my gosh, you guys do not understand military. They give 100% of their soul to that job. If he didn't get emotional about the people that he is overseeing, that's when I would start to question him.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you're right. Well, they would actually criticize him for that too, if he had no emotion at all. We'll take a break. We are awaiting that press conference. The White House holding a presser in the wake of the Supreme Court deciding that federal judges cannot be kings in America. We'll have that just ahead.
Somebody said they should say babes and bombers because babes can be both
that's true.
Guy and girl.
Yeah.
I saw just in one place last night, which made me question that it's not accurate.
Yeah.
But a video by an Asian Air Force pilot, female. She was talking about the stealth bomber and the design of it and everything.
Yeah.
And someone had tagged her and said this was a co-pilot in one of the bombers.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. I only saw it in one place.
Yeah.
You're supposed to stretch now. It's contagious. You didn't look at me while I did it. That's the problem.
I know. I don't want to catch it. Okay, finals. Oh, it's actually called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Oh, it's not just a nickname?
No, I think it's actually called that.
Who knew?
We actually had a good question about, can you give us a summary, One Big Beautiful Bill for Dummies summary? So I've got that.
Okay. Guess what we didn't do during the 6 o'clock hour yesterday because Pete Hegseth was talking.
Grand Peaks Prime Meats.
We didn't get our order ready. I mean, that was a good reason. It wasn't really failure on our part.
That's true.
And we didn't know that press conference was happening until about 7 o'clock that night.
Yes. Okay, so early next week.
Yeah, we got to get it done.
Yeah, let's get it. Because summer's underway. We need our freezer.
My hands are so cold again.
Yeah, here, do this. Do the Mr. Miyagi. Press hard, because it'll get warmer that way.
Great friction.
Isn't there a new Karate Kid movie out? I think there is, with Ralph Macchio. This
sounds like you need to go see it.
Let me see if it's playing. Maybe not quite. Ba-da-dun-dun-dun. Mission Impossible is pretty good, but not, you wouldn't like it.
Okay.
Anna went with her friends to see the Brad Pitt Formula One movie. Nope, it's not out yet. Let me see when. Oh, no, it came out May 30th. Karate Kid Legends.
How's it not playing? It's only been 3 weeks.
I don't know. It's weird. 923 News Talk 1079 Neal Larson and Julie Mason. Okay, Julie, I keep saying I'm going to do this, and something always comes up. I got to put down step 2 of my 4-step lawn program. I mowed on Monday.
Okay.
And I have to mow again tomorrow, just to keep, because I like to put it on Saturdays. Anyway, so I will, if I come in on Monday morning and I have not put down the step 2 lawn program, then I need you to kick me in the butt.
I didn't know what you were going to say there.
What?
You started kick, and I was like,
No, you know I don't. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to this.
I expected you to go, I'm not a violent person. I'm not going to kick you. But you seem a little too eager. So, all right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but I will get it done this weekend.
Okay. And you're fine. It's not like, it is scheduled for just a little bit sooner than this, but you're fine. Put it down on Saturday. You're going to be fine.
You know what? It says June or July.
Yeah, you're fine.
So my lawn is still reveling in the humates. So
there's a lot of dating that needed to happen in your yard.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. That's what the humates do.
Now a vibrant scene. So now I'll put down step 2. So
it's a party lawn.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, step 2, and then 3 and 4, they come later. I don't remember the exact months. I think August, September for 3, and then October, November.
You winterize with 4.
Yeah, that's the winterizer. So y'all should do that for your lawn because it is super easy. Though everything that you put on is formulated for our soils here in East Idaho. You don't have to watch a bunch of YouTube videos to try and figure out what's going on with your lawn. It helps curtail the weeds that are in your lawn. It helps provide the food that your lawn needs based on our climate and our soils, as I mentioned. And it also, the timing of it takes into account the seasons that we have here. And if you have any questions at all, of course, they have the expertise at Town and Country Gardens to help you out.
Stop on by. Tell them Neal and Julie sent you. It is south of Idaho Falls, across from the malting plant on Yellowstone Highway.
Great headline. Supreme Court has ruled that parents can opt children out of reading LGBTQ plus books in schools.
Okay, you read that headline again. Say it exactly like it says.
Supreme Court rules parents can opt children out of reading LGBTQ plus books in schools.
I don't know why the Supreme Court had to rule on this.
That was my exact. I'm thrilled. I'm dismayed though that we actually have to have a Supreme Court ruling to know that.
That a teacher thinks they can tell me that I can say
you must.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Well, when this whole thing came out, I don't even remember all the specific details of this case. I just remember the basics of it. And I'm like, wait a minute. What school district out there thinks that they can force children to read controversial material?
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to do anything to my kid that I don't want done to my kid.
Groomers, stay away from my kid. It is, that, you know what? That's great. This is good.
Good day so far.
It is a very good day
for conservatives, yeah.
And I wonder, hopefully, if word will get, I'm assuming, is it going to be Trump? Do we know if it's going to be Trump?
I don't know who's holding the press conference.
That maybe they will talk about this particular case too. So, that's true. I wonder how this one went though. Like in terms of the vote, I wouldn't be surprised if this was an 8-1 or a 9-0,
as it should have been.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is just weird to me. Weird that any educator feels like they can introduce sexual material to my child.
Yeah. So we may not get rulings.
They can extend their vacation or extend their work?
Let's see. I don't know, but we certainly didn't get 6 rulings today.
Well, they punted on one of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to get a full ruling on that.
Yeah.
But that's only 4, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Even with the one that was punted.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So, very short summary of Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton. The power to require age verification is within a state's authority to prevent children from accessing sexually explicit content. So
this was based off of porn sites have to require age verification before they can be used.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so maybe they did rule on that one too. So, yeah, I'm trying to find the one about the LGBTQ books. And so, man, it's a bad day to be a liberal today.
It's been a bad couple of weeks.
It really has. Sorry, you're still mad at me for putting this in your head yesterday, huh?
Yeah, it didn't last as long, so maybe it's like wearing off. It's doling me to the point that I can hear it any time now.
Could be. So, all right, 928-208-542-1079 if you'd like to be part of the program on this Friday morning. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you sent me this. There's a headline, ICE agents are still facing harassment in L.A. You had Representative LaMonica McIver. She was on with Peppermint Patty on MSNBC. And this is what she said.
I mean, there was a mix of emotion.
By the way, she was the one that had the dust up with the federal agents, just showed up. Was it ICE?
Yes, she was trying to gain entry to an ICE facility.
Right, and it got to a physical altercation point. So, anyway, this is what she said to Jen Psaki.
I mean, there was a mix of emotions to be there. I mean, obviously, this is a crazy situation. I never thought I would be facing charges as a sitting congresswoman. It's a scary situation, too, because I'm thinking of my mom. I'm thinking of my mom who was there with me.
Okay, I want to stop there. I didn't think I'd face charges as a sitting congresswoman. Haven't they talked for years that no one is above the law? That we shouldn't have a 2-tier justice system? Are you saying that you should have immunity? That you ought to be able to rough up ICE agents because you're a member of Congress?
Well, and don't bring your mom somewhere where there's potential that you're breaking the law. You have a responsibility there. She's using her mom as a human shield. They're like, how dare you do this in front of my mom? No one forced your mom to be there.
Yeah.
You brought your mom.
Right, yeah.
I wasn't taking my older mom to dangerous situations. You're not taking your older mom to dangerous situations.
No.
It's not my responsibility to take care of your mom.
Yeah, right, exactly. You're the one that brought her there. And now you do have to wonder, did she bring her there as a human shield? It's like, look, they're not going to arrest me. My mom's here with me. My elderly mother, they're not going to do that. So nothing is ever their own fault.
No,
right?
Never.
They're never accountable for their own decisions.
I didn't think I'd get arrested as a sitting congresswoman.
Yeah.
Well, don't break the law. Then you won't get arrested.
Yeah. No kidding. Like, I don't know. These people drive me crazy. All right. This news conference that is happening soon has not been happening soon.
Which
far.
Makes me think it is probably Trump, because usually when it's Trump, it's far more delayed.
That's true. That's true. Maybe they're spray tanning him.
Shellacking his hair.
Could be. That's a positive. Look, don't send the hate. That's just a joke, people. It's just a... All right, we'll be right back after this. By the way, somebody had texted in and said they asked, what punt nationwide injunctions are put down, or did I miss something? No, they did on that part of that ruling, but the issue of birthright citizenship was not decided or settled in the ruling. That's what the punt was. So we'll be back after this. Okay. Mew, 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 mew.
You got another call?
Oh, yeah. All right. Let me screen this. Hi. Yeah. Call where you call. We will have you on if we're not in a right out of the. All right. Hey, really quick, Paul. What did you want? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great.
Okay, so it looks like if we've gotten 4, the 2 that we're waiting for is the case about redistricting, whether Louisiana's new congressional map could hold, which includes 2 majority black districts, constitutes unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. So why do I feel like that one already got ruled on? Wasn't there already a gerrymandering rule earlier this week?
I don't remember.
And then the second one is a challenge to the legality of the Universal Service Fund. That fund subsidizes internet and phone access in underserved areas. It's based on the non-delegation doctrine. I know nothing about that FCC one. Nothing. But
yeah,
I can't remember the headline I saw on the gerrymandering one.
I'm yawning because I woke up this morning at like 2:45, went to the restroom, crawled back into bed, washed my hands, of course, and then crawled back into bed, and I could not sleep. Mew, 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 mew. And so at 3:15, I laid there for probably close to a half an hour. I'm like, I'm not going to lay here for another hour.
Yeah.
And so I got up, I showered, dressed, came to work. So I was here an hour early today. Which will be all right, because I want to leave a little early today. It's our church congregation. It's a father-daughter sleep, like a camp out trip. So anyway, it's going to be fun.
Good. Where's it at?
Blacktail Ryrie Reservoir. So Juniper Campground.
That's not a long drive.
No.
In the news read this morning, it was talking about that closure where they're going to fix the road.
Yeah.
And then it needed to be fixed because it's the one sole access to Calamity Campground.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, is that bad foreshadowing? Do you want to sleep at Calamity Campground?
Yes, I know. Well, that's like one of the nights on my trip, we stayed at a place called Destruction Bay. And I'm like, I might want to work on branding a little bit. Well, Massacre Rocks.
Yes.
I mean, they do name geographical places after sad things. Okay.
I'm about to do some investing. Spend it on you and your bestie. You and your twin on your jet ski. I'll change.
Okay, so this is Will Smith.
Oh, yeah, that clip.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh, this is so embarrassing.
It is really embarrassing.
It's cringe.
Nobody seemed excited whatsoever to see Will Smith out rapping again.
It's when, if you watch it, there's a guy in the background.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there kind of like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
He's just looking at him.
All right, we're back. Still waiting for the news conference. But we want to go to the phones. We have Paul in Idaho Falls standing by. Paul, thanks for waiting through the break. How are you this morning?
Doing real well. How are you doing, Neal?
Good. Hanging in there. What's on your mind?
Here.
Yeah.
I've just, I'm a little bit uneducated in the area, but I'm just really curious how these federal and district court judges can defy the president of the United States by having these injunctions or I don't know exactly what the correct legal jargon would be, but it seems like shouldn't the federal court judges not be held to the same standard as like the Supreme Court? It seems to me that the Supreme Court would be the other, besides Congress, the only other branch of government that could outrightly defy the president.
So, you know what? You ask a very common sense question, and I think that's why this went to the Supreme Court. That why should a federal judge who may have jurisdiction over a geographical area be able to issue a ruling that applies far beyond that? And their argument, I believe, is that, well, it's a federal issue. And so if you have equal justice under the law, you have a federal judge ruling on an issue, if they change the policy for, say, 8 states, well, there's 42 states left, and if federal law is supposed to apply to everyone equally, then you can't, in good faith, have the injunction apply only to your geographic region. That's what they would argue, but I believe the Supreme Court tossed that this morning.
Well, yeah, I can understand that, but if it's in direct contradiction to the President of the United States, wouldn't that seem a little bit ridiculous? It's like, I don't know. To me, that I understand what you're saying, because it is a federal sport, but at the same time, it's like putting a heavyweight boxer up against a lightweight boxer. You might be the champions in your own respective areas, but you're out of your class when it comes to defying the President of the United States. And at least in my limited understanding, because I freely admit that I don't have the best education in the entire government of the United States.
Yeah. So, I think you're asking a really good question. And it's the point that Justice Barrett issued, calling out Ketanji Brown Jackson by name and saying, basically, all you're doing is transferring your imperialism. You're saying that the president can't be imperialistic, but you're at the same time arguing that a judge in a lower court can put their name on a piece of paper and make it apply to the entire land. I mean, that's imperialistic. So I think it's a good point, and I think that's why the Supreme Court said no to it. So,
well, correct, and they're appointed. They're not elected. I mean, at the same point, I mean, the Supreme Court's appointed, but they got to be approved by Congress, correct? In order to be officially appointed by the president. So I don't know. It's, like I said, it seems like it's so far out of their class in what I would understand, at least.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong at all. And it's funny. You talk about how you feel like you don't have the best education, but yet your common sense approach aligns perfectly with what the Supreme Court ruled. So I don't. I think, thankfully, the Supreme Court in this case is just applying common sense. I mean, if it's the case where, why do we have geographic federal courts in the first place if a judge can issue an injunction that goes nationwide? Mm-hmm. Like, that just seems odd and counter to it. So, Paul, thank you for the call, Paul. We appreciate it. So,
all good questions.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't be super critical of yourself, Paul, because I think a lot of people feel the same way you do. I do. I feel like the situation is so almost kind of obvious that you shouldn't be able to imply across the land, or that a judge in D.C. shouldn't be able to take over in Texas or whatever. It just doesn't feel correct. Like, if you're just going to operate off of what sounds correct, what sounds logical, what feels correct, that goes counter against it. But you have many in the legal community who are demanding this kind of respect for these federal judges.
Yeah.
And it's like the doctor telling you have to respect my opinion because I'm the doctor.
Yes.
And you're not allowed to ask questions about it. It's just like flat. You're just supposed to well, that's not it. You shouldn't be able to grade your own homework. Right?
Yeah, right. That's true.
It feels like that with these judges.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Another problem that crops up is that you have people, obviously, in this case, they hate Trump. It probably goes both ways here. But since this is a show about current events, this is liberal groups out there. They hate Donald Trump. When a federal judge in a lower court can issue a nationwide injunction, that means those groups go shopping. They go shopping for the right judge in the right courtroom that they know is very likely to issue in their favor. And then suddenly that's given them presidential-like power to issue something that applies to the whole country. It also violates the idea that a lower court's ruling should not bind non-parties. Mm-hmm. That there's some case in Tennessee or Louisiana, and the federal court overseeing that should be able to make some decisions as it pertains to those people in that jurisdiction. But you and I and our listeners, I mean, they're not a party to that, but all of a sudden they're going to be bound by some some federal judge.
D.C. judge.
Across the country in a different jurisdiction. That makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, it just kind of defies logic, but then the legal community protects each other and they're grading their own homework. They're deciding that they're the ones in charge.
Yeah.
Even if the rulings that they're making aren't even constitutional, aren't even being able to be held up once they're advanced to a different court.
Yeah.
That's what would happen. If you hand me my paper and you give me an option to give myself an A, I'm going to give myself an A.
Right, absolutely. It's sacrosanct. It's. Mm-hmm. I wrote a book a couple of years ago. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. By the way, I think that Amy Coney Barrett probably should have written in her critique of Ketanji Brown Jackson, by the way, I am a woman, even though I know you're not a biologist. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
All right, 9:45 on News Talk 107.9. All right, we've taken our news break. We're still looking at an empty podium, which no doubt Trump is going to be.
He's got to be Trump. It's got to be Trump that's going to talk.
Hosting this. So we probably won't carry all of it. So Clay and Buck may, though.
Yeah, they could.
So they are on live. So, think of the string of events, Julie, that we've had just in the last couple of weeks. Iran, nuclear capability, wiped out, decimated. All the doomsday, the inflation doomsday sayers over tariffs, none of it's coming true. In fact, the markets are near record highs. You have Donald Trump inking a trade deal with China, which is getting almost no headlines, but it's historic. It's a big deal. You have
the big beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill that's about to get passed, which we had someone ask, can you give us a summary for the big beautiful bill, kind of a big beautiful bill for dummies, which maybe in the last segment, we'll take our break here, we can go over what that does. That because it has some pretty important things in it. It extends Trump's tax cuts. It's a lot of infrastructure stuff, too.
You also have the success that happened at NATO.
Yes.
Trump made that whirlwind trip and required the countries, just basically looked at them and said, we're going to do this. You need to start paying your fair share.
Yeah.
So that also got squeezed in between all of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so much in 6 days.
Yeah. There has been. And maybe it's slightly faster than normal, but this is Trump's pace, and it's good. So we do have a call. Let's take the phone call real quick. Caller, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of going back in time a little, but I was thinking about it this morning because they're still kind of talking about it, about how those bombs didn't do that good of a job. And even like the Ayatollah came out and said, hey, that wasn't that good. Kind of reminds me of when I was a little kid, and I'm from the spanking days, and you'd get a spanking and you'd go, well, that didn't hurt. And so,
yeah,
Daddy, as they've called Trump Daddy, oh, that didn't hurt. What I would love to see is like about twice the bombs back, because the Ayatollah said, well, that didn't hurt, and just bomb that hole till there's water coming from the other side of the ocean up into it. And, because he's the one saying, oh, it didn't hardly do anything to us. Oh, okay. Well, then another midnight ride. But anyway, just my thought.
All right. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it.
Good point.
Yeah, it is. All right.
And I don't know why people expected Iran to say anything different.
No, I don't know.
I think it's funny that credibility has been given to a leader that hid for several days. And now he's going to come out and say that, Iran is still strong. And I think he claimed victory. And okay, go ahead, run those headlines, because we all know it's not true.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, let's take a break really quick here on News Talk 107.9. And we'll keep an eye on it. We still have the empty podium for the presser, but we'll maybe catch a little bit of it on the other side. Okay. I'm trying to work the habit of grabbing audio. So like when we have a caller, whatever. Mew, 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 mew. It's going to... Do females... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to tell you.
Here's Trump. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's let this commercial play out. It will carry it for just a bit, but we will have to take a break here. We got 2 minutes left. So, all right, hold on. All right, 9:50. We're going to cut off this commercial break real quick and tune in. President Trump is holding a press conference.
This last hour, there are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with that, I'd like you to listen to the words of Pam Bondi. She's an incredible Attorney General. We're very proud of her. And as you know, Todd Blanche is with us, and we have so many others that worked on this case and other cases. And I think they're doing a great job. Pam, please say a few words.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for fighting for all Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal justices Judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that, 94 districts. And 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer. No longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security.
All right, 9:56 on News Talk 107.9. I apologize. We could not carry more of this. We are governed by the clock. We do have a hard break that we've got to reach here. Julie, have a great weekend.
Thank you. You as well. Be safe.
All of our listeners, thank you. Please be safe as well. And Julie and I, we will be back Monday morning, no doubt, with plenty to talk about after this week's events. So Clay and Buck are coming up next. They'll have ongoing coverage of what's happening today in Washington. Okay. We can listen to more of it. I should have told the listeners we'll carry more of it on Facebook Live, but.
Gender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's a great day for the rule of law. It's a great day for the Justice Department, and it's one that's been a long time coming and one that every American should have been waiting for with bated breath. And so I echo what the President said and Attorney General Bondi, that the Supreme Court did a great thing today, not only for this administration, but for every American in this country. If not for the injunctions case, we would be here talking about another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology. And
by the way, this is Todd Blanche. He's the Deputy Attorney General.
Correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that. There's been multiple decisions over the past several weeks that just show why this nationwide injunction ban had to happen. For example, what I mean by that is local district court judges issuing decisions that are clearly contrary to law just because they don't like the policy of President Trump. And when it gets to the Supreme Court has to correct it. But that takes time. The Attorney General thanked our lawyers, and I'll do it again. Our lawyers are working 24 hours a day,